Hey there, sleepyheads. Welcome back to the channel. Before we drift into tonight's tale of the Forest of Eternal Dawn, I'd love to know where in the world you are watching from tonight. And what time is it for you right now? Drop it in the comments below. It's always magical seeing how far and wide this sleepy little community reaches. All right, lights low, blankets up. Let's begin. A hush breeze through the edge of the world. The forest stands waiting, a place caught forever between night and morning, where the air glows faintly as though remembering sunlight. A single figure moves through the veil of mist. His footsteps are soft, careful, almost reverent. The color of blue trails behind him like a sigh of wind that has forgotten how to hurry. The traveler Sonic pauses at the threshold where the last shadow of night folds into a shimmer of dawn. In every other world he has known, he is a streak of motion, a heartbeat racing across valleys and steel. But here, even speed kneels before silence. The first sound is not wind, it is whispering. Not words, not yet, but the murmur of leaves that seem to speak in tones older than time itself. Each rustle says, "Welcome and wait." He lifts his head, ears tilting toward that subtle hum. The air feels heavier, not in weight, but in memory. Dew clings to every branch like fragments of a forgotten dream. Beneath his shoes, the soil pulses faintly alive. For a moment, Sonic wonders if he has fallen asleep somewhere on a hilltop and wandered into the dream of the world itself. Yet the scent, earthy, sweet, faintly metallic like rain on stone, is too vivid for sleep. He steps forward. The forest sighs. As he walks, colors shift like breath. Silver moss deepens to teal. Gold mist ripples with lilac undertones. The sky holds no sun, no stars, just a soft luminance like endless morning. And through that light, the whispering strengthens. It moves around him, not from one direction, but all. The trees seem to lean closer, their branches forming arches above the winding path. The path itself shines faintly, like veins of light running through dark glass. Every few steps, the wind curls through his quills, cool and reassuring. It speaks not in language, but emotion, a quiet message. Slow down, listen. Sonic exhales. He rarely listens. The world usually demands motion: save, race, return, repeat. But here the forest demands nothing. It simply exists, endlessly dawning. He notices small lights drifting through the mist, fireflies, though they gleam in hues of soft coral and turquoise. They spiral around him, leaving faint traces in the air that fade like brushstrokes on invisible canvas. The deeper he goes, the thicker the quiet becomes. It is not an emptiness, but fullness, a silence packed with the weight of meaning. A soft stream appears beside the trail. Its water runs so clear that the stones beneath look like glass polished by centuries. He kneels, dips a hand, and feels warmth, not the warmth of day, but the steady pulse of life. When he pulls his hand back, the droplets linger longer than they should, glowing faintly before dissolving. He watches, fascinated, as though time itself hesitates. Then a voice, faint, almost imagined. "Traveler of motion, why have you come where nothing moves?" He freezes. The sound carries from everywhere, soft, melodic, woven into the wind. Sonic looks around. "I didn't mean to intrude," he says quietly. "I was following light." "Then you follow yourself," the voice replies, amused and kind. From the mist steps a shape, a fox, but not any he has known. Its fur is woven from pale moonlight, each movement leaving a glimmer behind like falling dust. Its eyes reflect the forest, containing dawn and dusk in equal measure. "You are the one who runs between worlds," the fox says. "Here there is no between, there is only being." Sonic tilts his head. "Being?" "Yes," the fox answers. "The stillness between your steps, the breath between your thoughts. The forest of eternal dawn lives in that pause." He wants to ask how he found it, but the fox turns, motioning with its tail. "Walk with me." They move together, side by side, though the fox's feet make no sound. It glides rather than walks. After a while, the forest begins to hum again, a tone low and comforting, vibrating through bark and soil alike. The fox speaks without turning. You are made of movement, child of the wind, yet even you must rest. The forest has called because it remembers your rhythm. My rhythm? Sonic echoes, uncertain. Every runner leaves a song in the ground, the fox says. Yours was loud, bright, until the world tired from chasing. You forgot the quiet that began your song. Sonic frowns slightly. The words feel half understood, like a dream fading even as it's spoken. They reach a clearing where the mist thins and the light gathers into columns, descending like gentle waterfalls. In the center stands a stone arch covered in carvings, circles, spirals, interlocking patterns like the trails he's drawn across lands. He steps closer, tracing a fingertip over one spiral. It feels warm, humming faintly. These marks, he murmurs. I've seen them before. In echoes, the fox answers. They are older than you, yet they remember your color. Sonic's reflection appears faintly on the stone, not solid, but shifting, like he is made of both light and motion. The fox's voice softens. The arch remembers every dawn that has ever been. Each time light returns to shadow's edge, the world breathes once. That breath builds the forest. Sonic looks up at the swirling canopy, at the pale gold mist filtering through. So this forest never sleeps? It sleeps as you dream, the fox replies, and dreams as you sleep. The words settle in the air, heavy and tender. A small wind stirs. The sound becomes melodic, carrying a rhythm faintly like his heartbeat. He realizes the hum beneath. Everything matches that beat, slow, deep, patient. The fox turns toward him. You hear it now. Yes, Sonic whispers. It's calm. It is you, says the fox. You are hearing yourself without the race. He closes his eyes. For the first time, the endless drive within him quiets. The need to move, to do, to save all soften into something simpler. To be. The fox circles him once, tail brushing the air. When you learn to stay, you will learn the truest motion. Sonic opens his eyes again. The forest seems brighter, each color saturated yet soft. Even the air feels thicker, alive with possibility. Will I ever leave? He asks. When dawn ends, the fox replies, smiling. But here, dawn is eternal. A faint laugh escapes Sonic, warm and incredulous. Guess that means I'll be here a while. The fox inclines its head. Then listen, the forest speaks through everything. They stand in silence again. Somewhere above, light flickers a slow pulse that rolls across the sky like the shimmer of an unseen sea. Every sense sharpens. The smell of dew, the taste of cool air, the faint vibration beneath his feet. Sonic feels as if he is dissolving into the world around him, not disappearing, expanding. He realizes how loud life can be, even without sound, how the world hums constantly with tiny, delicate miracles. A bird of translucent feathers glides through the columns of light. Its wings make no sound, but ripples of color follow its flight, spreading through leaves and sky. Sonic watches, entranced. It's beautiful. It is listening to the same rhythm, says the fox. Everything here does. Even you. They continue walking. The air grows warmer, tinged with the scent of blooming petals. Tiny white flowers emerge along the path as they pass, as if waking from sleep at the sound of their steps. Time seems to fold upon itself. Sonic cannot tell how long they have been walking, minutes, hours, lifetimes. The eternal dawn knows no clock. Yet he feels no impatience, only a gentle awareness that each heartbeat, each breath belongs perfectly to its moment. He looks back once the mist behind him, already closing like a dream, fading upon waking. The path forward glows faintly, pulling him onward, not with urgency, but with invitation. Where does this lead? He asks quietly. To remembering, the fox answers. The fox moves ahead, weaving between pale trunks that shimmer faintly, their bark like pearl and moonstone. Each step the creature takes leaves a soft ripple in the ground, Not footprints, but luminous traces that fade like sighs. Sonic follows silently. The deeper they go, the lighter the air becomes, until it feels as if he's walking through liquid light. He notices now that the trees are changing. Their branches no longer hold simple leaves, but delicate veils of light that quiver gently, as if the forest itself is breathing in unison. Every so often, he hears faint laughter in the wind, not mocking but joyous, almost childlike. It reminds him of running beside friends long ago, of freedom so pure it felt like flying. The sound seems to echo from nowhere and everywhere at once. He glances toward the fox. Who else lives here? Not lives, the fox answers. Remains. What you hear are echoes of joy moments that refuse to fade. Echoes of joy, Sonic repeats softly, smiling at the thought. That's a nice kind of ghost. The fox chuckles, a sound like wind touching crystal. Every forest is built from what the world remembers most fondly. They reach a ridge. Below it, a vast glade opens filled with luminous mist, rolling like soft tidewater. Within the haze, something gleams. A vast pond, perfectly still, its surface reflecting the sky of endless dawn. Come, says the fox. They descend slowly. The ground softens beneath Sonic's shoes, moss glowing underfoot in faint blue patterns. At the pond's edge, the air feels different, weightless, like standing inside a held breath. The fox gestures toward the water. Look, Sonic kneels and gazes into the pond. At first, he sees only his reflection faint, wavering, but then the image begins to shift. He sees streaks of light racing across endless plains, glimpses of cities, oceans, laughter, storms. He sees himself running through time. Yet as he watches, the reflection slows, then stills entirely. His mirrored self stands quietly, hands open, eyes calm. This, says the fox softly, is the you who does not run. Sonic tilts his head, studying that reflection. The still version of himself looks lighter somehow, not slower but clearer, like motion distilled into pure essence. What is he doing, he asks. He is being, says the fox. The forest wind moves over the pond, and the still reflection ripples, breaking into fragments of light that scatter like leaves in water. Each fragment glows briefly before fading into the mist. Sonic watches until the surface clears again. It's strange, he murmurs. Everywhere else I go, I feel like I'm chasing time. But here it feels like time is waiting. Time is only another current, the fox replies. Here it flows in circles, not lines. Sonic leans back slightly, gazing at the luminous forest. So this place, it never ends? Nor begins, the fox says. It simply is. The dawn here does not rise or set. It breathes. The sound of the pond deepens, becoming more resonant, like the low hum of distant thunder, though gentle, harmonic. The ground itself seems to vibrate. The fox steps closer. You feel it now, the heartbeat of the forest. Every dawn, it renews itself, and every being who finds it leaves a song behind. My song? Sonic asks. Yes, the rhythm of who you are, the fox replies. You once filled worlds with your melody, a song of motion, courage, and wind. But songs cannot run forever without rest. Sonic lowers his gaze. So I came here to rest. The fox shakes its head slowly. You came here to remember. A moment of silence stretches between them, deep, living silence filled with the hum of unseen things. Then from across the pond, faint lights begin to rise, tiny orbs floating upward, spiraling slowly like glowing seeds carried by invisible hands. They gather above the water, forming shapes that resemble constellations, but shifting constantly, never settling, always becoming. Sonic stands, mesmerized. What are they? Memories, the fox whispers, of those who learned stillness. The lights shimmer, some bright, some dim, each pulsing at its own rhythm. Sonic reaches out instinctively. One of the orbs drifts near, hovering just above his palm. It vibrates faintly, not cold, but soothing, like warm breath against skin. Within it, he sees flashes: a young girl laughing, a village greeting the first sunrise, a tree unfurling new leaves after endless winter. When the orb fades, he feels a lingering warmth in his chest. They belong to no one, says the fox, yet they live in all who pass through. The forest keeps what the heart forgets. Sonic looks around. Everywhere the lights dance reflections of memory that never died. He feels something stir deep inside, a quiet recognition that he too has been part of countless stories, countless mornings that faded too soon. He sits down beside the pond. I think I understand, he says softly. This forest isn't about endings or beginnings. It's about everything that happens in between. The fox nods, tail curling gracefully. Between is where truth breathes. They stay there for a while, watching the glowing memories drift upward until the air becomes thick with them, like stars blooming in the low sky. Each light hums a faint note, and together they form a melody that vibrates gently through the Sonic's chest. Without realizing it, he starts to hum along. The sound merges perfectly with the melody, as though it had always belonged there. The fox watches with quiet approval. See, you were always part of the forest song. Sonic smiles faintly. Feels like home, because it is made of every home you've ever left behind, says the fox. He closes his eyes. The melody flows through him, slowing his heartbeat to match the pulse of the light. For a moment he feels weightless, not detached, but deeply rooted in everything. The air shimmers. The forest brightens slightly, though it remains dawn, never full morning. The light gathers in threads that weave through the trees, creating bridges of color and shape. Sonic opens his eyes to see these glowing strands forming pathways, not solid, but shimmering like dreams. They stretch far into the distance, each one pulsing gently with rhythm. What are those? He asks. Paths of memory, the fox answers. Every traveler follows their own, though all begin here. He looks down one of the luminous paths. It seems to call him, not urgently, but kindly, like a voice saying, "Come see." He glances at the fox. "Will you come with me?" "For a while," says the fox, "until your steps remember their own pace." Sonic nods. "Then let's go." They begin walking again, their reflections trailing in the pond behind them. As they step onto the glowing path, the air vibrates softly, not in resistance, but in greeting. The path feels warm beneath his feet, smooth like glass but alive like skin. Around them, the forest stretches infinitely. Colors shift in slow, peaceful waves: rose, amber, indigo, gold. Every hue seems to breathe. As they move, Sonic senses something profound. He is not leaving the pond behind. It moves with him, as though the entire forest folds and flows according to his awareness. Wherever his thoughts go, the world gently adjusts. He realizes this place isn't a space to escape into, it's a mirror. It reflects whatever stillness he allows himself to feel. The fox's voice breaks the silence softly. You begin to hear the deeper whisper. Sonic nods slowly. Yeah, it's like the whole place is alive, talking even when it's quiet. It is alive because you are, says the fox, and when you listen, it listens back. They reach another archway, this one of woven roots and golden moss. The air here glows warmer, more intimate. Sonic hesitates before stepping through. What happens when I cross? He asks. You remember more, the fox replies gently. But remember, this forest does not test. It invites. Sonic exhales slowly, then steps through. Instantly, sound deepens. He hears water rushing far below, like an ocean breathing beneath the earth. The wind above hums softly in time with his heartbeat. He glances back, but the archway has already faded, replaced by trees stretching into the horizon. The fox walks ahead. Every dawn you've ever seen has led you here, though you never knew. The world gives speed to your legs, but peace to your heart. The two were never separate. Sonic walks beside it, voice hushed. I always thought peace meant stopping, but maybe it's just moving differently. The fox smiles. You are learning the language of the forest. They come upon a small rise where the mist clears completely. From here, Sonic can see far an ocean of trees glowing beneath the eternal light. Valleys threaded with rivers that shine like silver ribbons. The horizon curves gently, fading into brightness that never becomes harsh. The sight fills him with quiet awe. It goes on forever. As all dawns do, the fox replies. Eternity is not distance, it is presence. Sonic nods slowly, letting those words settle in his mind. He stands there for a long while, the gentle hum of the forest around him, the soft rhythm beneath his feet, the whisper of dawn in every breath. Somewhere inside him, a truth unfolds quiet, simple, undeniable. There is beauty in the pause. The fox sits beside him, eyes gleaming softly. Now you understand the first lesson of the eternal dawn. Sonic glances at the creature, smiling faintly. And what's that? That speed and stillness are the same song, says the fox, only sung in different notes. He lets the words sink in. A calm unlike any he has ever known wraps around him, not the calm of sleep, but of wholeness. The forest hums in approval, leaves swaying, light breathing gently. The world seems to lean closer, as if listening to his quiet realization. Sonic takes one deep breath, feeling the air of the forest fill his lungs. The whisper that first welcomed him now murmurs again, not from the trees, not from the fox, but from within himself. It says simply, you are home in every dawn you greet. And with that, the chapter closes softly, not in silence, but in peace. The night had folded itself into the gentlest shade of silver when Sonic, still half dream, half being, walked deeper into the sleeping heart of the forest of eternal dawn. Behind him, the glade of his awakening glimmered like a memory that refused to fade. The dew still clung to his fur, catching light that seemed to come from no single source. It shimmered softly, as though the forest itself breathed luminescence into everything it touched. The path ahead was woven of roots that pulsed faintly beneath his feet, like veins carrying stories older than the stars. Each step whispered against the soil, as though the ground remembered him. The stillness was not empty, it was alive. There was no wind, yet the trees sighed in harmony, releasing faint tones that hummed like distant bells carried through fog. He felt no urgency, the need for speed, the pulse that had defined his existence in the waking world, was softened here. Time stretched like silk. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of the forest, and for the first time, Sonic wasn't running from or toward anything. He was simply within. As he moved forward, the trees began to glow faintly. First the bark, then the leaves. A soft amber light traced their shapes until the forest floor became a pathway of golden lavender. The air was filled with drifting motes of light, like fireflies made of memory. When they touched him, he could hear faint laughter, echoes of joy long gone, yet still lingering in the roots of the world. Then he saw it, the Luminara Grove. It was a vast circle of trees, older than the notion of sunrise itself. Their trunks were enormous, pale and shimmering with veins of blue light that pulsed in slow, steady rhythm. At their center stood a crystal pool, so still it reflected the canopy like glass. Around it floated thousands of glowing petals, like stars that had descended to rest. Sonic stepped closer, his reflection flickering on the surface. Though it didn't move quite in sync with him, his image smiled faintly when he did not. For a brief heartbeat, he thought he was seeing a memory, one from a time when laughter came easily, before the weight of battles and endless motion dulled the spark of wonder in him. From the edge of the pool, a soft ripple spread outward. Something stirred beneath. Traveler of motion, a voice said, soft as dawn light slipping through mist. Sonic turned but saw no one. The voice didn't come from a direction. It came from everywhere. It was as though the forest itself had chosen to speak. "Who are you?" Sonic asked, his tone barely above a whisper. unwilling to disturb the sacred quiet. "I am the grove," said the voice, "the keeper of remembrance. Here, the moments you've outrun come to rest. Here, the echoes you left behind find their shape." The words drifted through him like a current. For an instant, he felt the wind of his past. Every race, every laughter shared, every fleeting victory. They came not as memories, but as sensations, like colors brushing past his skin. "Why am I here?" he asked softly. "To remember what cannot be carried in speed," the grove replied. "Every soul that runs too fast leaves a trail of light behind. You have come to meet what you left." The water stirred again, and this time Sonic saw shapes emerging, silhouettes of himself, running through vast plains, across oceans, through cities of light. Each version shimmered faintly, as though made of moonlight. Some smiled, some looked weary, some were barely visible, faded echoes of choices and chances that might have been. He watched them move in graceful loops around the pool, their paths intertwining. Each left ripples of light that danced upon the surface, weaving intricate constellations. "What happens to them?" he asked. "They rest," said the grove, "until you remember that stillness does not mean ending. It means becoming whole." The words sank into him like seeds falling into fertile ground. He knelt beside the pool, dipping his hand into the cool surface. The moment he touched it, warmth flooded up his arm, a pulse of pure light. In that light, he saw not battles, not speed, but laughter shared around small fires, faces of friends who had walked beside him, voices that had guided him through storm and shadow. He closed his eyes, and the forest breathed with him. When he opened them again, the light had changed. What had been silver and blue now shimmered with gold and rose. The dawn that was never born seemed to stretch across the sky, yet the stars didn't fade. It was a paradox of beauty, both night and morning existing together, like memory and hope woven into one breath. A gentle rustle came from behind. Turning, Sonic saw a figure, a faint shape of light and leaf. It wasn't quite human, nor animal. It was as if the forest had formed itself into a guide. Its body flickered between solid and shimmering, and its eyes glowed like polished amber. "You heard the grove," it said, voice smooth and melodic. "Few do. Most travelers rush past the whisper. You stayed." Sonic tilted his head. "Was I supposed to?" The being smiled, a slow, knowing curve of light. "There is no supposed to in the forest of eternal dawn. Only what is. You were called here because your spirit hums too loudly to sleep. The grove can soothe it, but only if you listen." He followed as the being walked toward the heart of the circle. Every step it took sent ripples through the air, as though it walked upon invisible water. Around them, the trees leaned slightly inward, their leaves chiming softly like thousands of tiny bells. The guide extended its hand toward the pool. "These are your echoes, traveler. Would you see them fully?" Sonic hesitated. Part of him feared what it meant, to confront the pieces of himself he'd left behind. But curiosity had always been stronger than fear. He nodded. The figure dipped its fingers into the pool, and the surface burst into light. The forest vanished around them. They stood now in a vast expanse of shifting sky. Stars floated like lanterns caught in slow tides. Beneath his feet, clouds reflected shimmering cities and places he recognized only by feeling. The valleys he'd crossed, the friends he'd saved, the moments he'd lost. "Every step you've ever taken echoes here," said the guide. "But motion alone cannot make meaning. Look closer." Sonic watched as the scene slowed. He saw himself running, not to win, but to reach someone. He saw times when he'd paused to help, when he'd shared laughter, when he'd fallen and risen again. He saw, too, moments of solitude, when he'd hidden his weariness behind speed. "They're all me," he whispered. The guide nodded. "Each a color of your soul's light. The grove preserves them so you may see what was never truly gone." As Sonic watched, the images began to merge, forming a great spiral of light that rose into the sky. Within its glow, he felt peace, Not because he understood everything, but because he no longer needed to. The forest hummed through him, a pulse steady and eternal. The guide turned to him. "You've begun to remember, but remembrance is only the first dawn. The forest has more to show you if you continue." He looked around, the spiral fading, the stars folding back into shadow, and felt the faint stir of wind. The grove's voice returned, distant but kind. "Follow the rhythm beneath your heart. It will lead you where you are most afraid to rest." The air grew warmer, filled with the scent of rain and light. Sonic took a deep breath, his reflection flickering across the fading pool once more. Then, without a word, he stepped forward into the unknown paths beyond the grove. The forest parted before him. And somewhere behind, the echoes of himself smiled as they dissolved into light. The deeper Sonic walked, the more the air shimmered with soft color. The grove's golden light had faded behind him, but faint traces lingered, like glowing dust swirling in his wake. Ahead, the forest changed. The trees grew taller, their bark silver-white and smooth, their roots rising like gentle waves frozen in time. Between them flowed streams of pale light, not water, but something purer, like flowing emotion turned visible. The forest seemed to hum a melody he almost recognized. It was the same rhythm that lived in his chest, that steady pulse that had driven him across worlds. But now it was slower, more measured, like a lullaby remembering the echo of speed. He paused beside one of the glowing streams and knelt, his fingers brushing the current. It didn't feel cold or warm. It felt alive, a whisper that wrapped gently around his hand, speaking without words. He closed his eyes, and 1,000 tiny memories flickered behind them. Moments of laughter, of wind on his face, of distant voices calling his name through storm and sunlight alike. When he opened his eyes again, the world around him had shifted once more. The forest had given way to an open clearing, a vast hollow surrounded by trees, whose branches intertwined into a ceiling of light. This was the Luminara Grove's heart, and he knew it instinctively. At its center stood a tree unlike any other, its trunk pure white, its leaves translucent gold. From every leaf dripped faint threads of luminescence, each falling into small pools that circled the roots. The pools reflected not just the forest, but moments. Flashes of laughter, faces, storms, horizons. He realized that every pool held someone's memory, someone's moment of stillness preserved forever. He stepped closer. The air here was almost sacred. Every sound, every breath felt reverent, as though even silence had to bow to this place. A voice emerged again, not the grove's this time, but softer, more intimate. "Traveler of motion," it said. "Why do you run?" Sonic stopped. He turned toward the source and found a faint silhouette beneath the tree. It wasn't the forest guide. This figure was smaller, cloaked in gold and white mist, their form pulsing softly like a heartbeat. He hesitated. "Because it's what I do," he said. "It's what I've always done." The figure's voice held both warmth and sorrow. "And when the running ends, what remains?" He wanted to answer, but the question sank deep, like a stone into still water. The truth was, he didn't know. The figure moved closer, its shape shimmering with the same energy that danced through the grove's roots. "The forest remembers what the world forgets," it whispered. "You carry echoes of countless dawns within you, each one a beginning, each one a farewell. The speed you cherish is not a race, it's a rhythm. You are meant to listen to it, not flee from it." Sonic lowered his head slightly, his quills catching the light like feathers in dawn. "But I've always run because I could, because standing still felt like losing something." "Perhaps," the figure said gently, "you were never meant to stand still, only to move differently." It reached out a hand made of light and touched his chest, where his heart pulsed steady and strong. "This," it said, "is your true motion, the rhythm of being alive. The world outside runs on seconds, but this forest runs on soul." At that, Sonic felt something stir within him, a quiet realization, not of logic, but of feeling. The endless chase, the need to move forward. It wasn't about outrunning time or winning battles. It was about harmony. His speed was a reflection of his spirit's song, and somewhere along the way, he had forgotten to hear the music in it. The figure smiled faintly, then turned toward the golden pools. Each drop here is a heartbeat left behind by those who found peace. You may leave one too, if you wish. Sonic approached the nearest pool. He knelt and stared into it, his reflection wavering softly in the light. He saw his journey again, the faces of friends, the laughter, the quiet nights beneath stars. He saw the loneliness too, the moments no one else had seen, the quiet fatigue after victory, the ache of always being needed. He reached to touch the surface. As his fingertip met the glow, it rippled, and a single tear-shaped light rose from his chest. It floated above the pool, warm and weightless, before dissolving into the golden mist. The pool shimmered brighter, humming in soft harmony. The figure bowed slightly. A gift received. The forest thanks you. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves, and for the first time since arriving, Sonic smiled fully. It wasn't the sharp grin of excitement or challenge. It was soft, unguarded, peaceful. He looked up toward the canopy, where endless threads of gold danced in slow waves. The stars above seemed closer here, as though they were listening. The forest breathed around him, every rustle and shimmer a word in an ancient, silent language. The figure began to fade, its outline dissolving into air. The path ahead will take you beyond remembrance, it said. Follow the light that trembles beneath the surface of things. It will lead you to the Vale of Dreams. Sonic nodded, his voice quiet but certain. Thank you. When the figure vanished completely, the forest exhaled. The threads of gold swayed, the air shimmering with renewed life. From somewhere distant, a soft chime rang, the same melody that had called him into the grove, now inviting him onward. He stood for a moment longer, letting the sound wash over him. Then he turned. The path before him stretched like a ribbon of starlight through the trees, winding deeper into the heart of the forest of eternal dawn. The leaves parted softly as he moved, and the luminescent streams began to flow faster, glowing brighter, as if lighting his way. Every step echoed gently, matching the rhythm of his heart. For once his pace was unhurried, but filled with quiet purpose. He could feel the forest listening, breathing with him, every root and leaf alive in the shared silence. After a while, he noticed shapes moving between the trees, not threatening but curious. Tiny beings of light, smaller than fireflies, drifted near his path. They moved in patterns that resembled constellations, whispering as they passed. He couldn't understand their language, but he felt their meaning, a welcome, a recognition. He smiled at them, softly whispering, "I'll take care of what you showed me." As he continued walking, the trees began to change again. Their glow softened into deeper hues, lavender, rose, and indigo. The scent of night flowers filled the air. Somewhere ahead, he could hear the gentle trickle of running water, perhaps another stream of light, perhaps something else entirely. The Luminara Grove grew distant behind him, yet its presence remained in the rhythm of his steps and the warmth in his chest. He no longer felt like a wanderer or an intruder. He felt like a part of the forest itself, as though each breath drew in its light and returned it gently to the air. The forest whispered once more, not words, but a feeling, a promise. He followed it until the canopy opened wide, revealing a sky filled with drifting auroras, waves of color bending and folding like ribbons of dreamlight. The stars shimmered softly, their glow reflected in his eyes. He stopped to rest beneath a wide arch of glowing roots and lay back against the moss. The ground was warm, alive with quiet energy. Above him, the auroras rippled, painting the forest in endless shades of dawn. For the first time in what felt like forever, Sonic closed his eyes. Not in exhaustion, but in peace. The grove's melody lingered faintly in the distance, now joined by another, the quiet hum of the forest dreaming with him. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying the final echo of the grove's voice. "You are not the storm, traveler. You are the rhythm within it. And in that gentle sound, the hero of endless motion drifted into the softest sleep the world had ever known. The forest watched over him, its light dimming to a tranquil glow, guarding both his rest and the memory of the dawn that never fades. The air shimmered faintly, and for a moment Sonic wondered if he was walking or dreaming. The path that led from the Luminara Grove unfolded like a memory fluid, half-formed, glimmering with every step. Each breath carried traces of lilac mist that glowed softly in the dim light, as though the forest exhaled its own quiet dream. He moved through arches of silver-leaf trees. The world had grown slower again. Even his footsteps felt lighter, their echoes dissolving before they reached his ears. The light here had no source. It seemed to rise from the ground, from the bark, from the gentle pulse of life that lived in every petal and shadow. Somewhere beyond, he heard the sound of water, not the rushing song of rivers, but a steady whisper, rhythmic and endless. He followed it until the trees parted, revealing a vast valley woven with mist. This was the Vale of Dreams. The land curved gently like a sleeping creature. Its floor was blanketed in soft moss that shimmered pale blue beneath the twilight. Streams of light ran through it like veins of living glass. Every few moments the mist shifted, revealing shapes, fragments of visions that rose and fell like breath. A wing, a memory, a face half-formed of silver smoke. Sonic paused at the ridge overlooking the vale. He could feel something stirring in the air, not a wind but a hum, a vibration that reached deeper than sound. It brushed against his heartbeat and settled there, echoing softly. He took a step forward, then another. The moment his foot touched the valley floor, the mist rippled outward as if acknowledging him. Tiny lights appeared within it, small as fireflies, though their glow felt familiar. He realized with a quiet start that they were dreams. They moved around him like curious creatures. Each one flickered with faint imagery, a hand reaching, a star falling, laughter carried by waves. He raised a hand and one drifted near, resting on his palm. It pulsed once, warm and weightless. For an instant, he saw a memory not his own, a child chasing dandelion seeds across a meadow, the joy so pure it silenced the world. Then it vanished. "These are not your dreams," came a voice, gentle but echoing through every leaf and droplet. "But they welcome you." He turned, expecting to see another figure of light like before. Instead, the voice came from the air itself, carried by the mist, woven through it. "Who are you?" Sonic asked softly. "I am the veil," said the voice, "the bridge between waking and the world beneath it. All who dream pass through me. All who forget return to me." He looked around, marveling. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "It is what lies beneath the surface of every heart," said the veil. "Beauty, fear, longing, they all rest here, waiting to be seen." Sonic took a slow breath. "And why am I here?" The mist stirred again, swirling around him like silk. "Because your spirit carries unrest," the veil murmured. "You are a wanderer of motion, but your mind has not yet learned to drift. Here you will learn the quiet rhythm of dreaming awake." He felt the words sink into him like the roots of trees reaching deep into soil. Dreaming awake, he wasn't sure what it meant, but somehow it felt right. As he walked deeper into the veil, the scenery shifted subtly with his thoughts. When he remembered warmth, the mist glowed gold. When he felt uncertain, it cooled to blue. Every emotion painted the air around him, shaping faint echoes of his heart. He soon came upon a great mirror of water, calm and endless. The surface reflected not the forest above, but a sky of floating color, streams of green and violet bending like ribbons. The reflections shimmered, showing not his face, but countless versions of himself in motion, each running in different directions, some toward light, others into shadow. He crouched beside the mirror. His reflection paused too, meeting his gaze with quiet intensity. "You run," it said. The voice was his own, but softer, older. "You run through every dream. But have you ever asked what happens to the dreams left behind?" Sonic frowned slightly. "They fade, don't they?" Only if forgotten, said the reflection. Each dream left behind still runs waiting for you to slow enough to notice. He reached out, touching the surface. The reflection rippled, distorting, and suddenly he was falling through it not down, but inward. He landed softly on his feet. Around him stretched a landscape of suspended memory, floating fragments of dreamscapes, a hill of glowing flowers, a city of glass towers humming with invisible wind, a sea where waves curled upward like spirals of music. Everything shimmered, translucent yet vibrant. This was the inner layer of the veil, the place where dreams came to rest before fading into the unknown. From between the drifting fragments came faint figures, silhouettes formed of soft light and shadow. They moved slowly, gracefully, leaving trails of luminous dust in their wake. Some resembled creatures, others barely held shape. They watched him with curious stillness, their eyes shimmering like reflections on water. "Are you dreamers?" he asked. One figure nodded, its form rippling. "Fragments of what once was dreamt," it replied in a whisper that sounded like many voices at once. "We are the echoes of those who no longer remember. But you are remembered." He blinked. "Remembered? By who?" "By the world that sleeps less because of you," said another, its light shifting into gentle hues of blue. "You move through lives like wind, stirring hope, laughter, the will to rise. Those moments never vanish. They drift here, glowing quietly." He stood in silence, humbled by the thought. The idea that even fleeting kindness or courage could become eternal light, it stirred something deep within him. A gentle tremor moved through the air. The fragments of dream around him began to pulse, aligning into a slow spiral. The figures drifted closer, their light interweaving. "The veil responds," said the first. "It has seen your stillness. It offers a path." A ribbon of light unfolded before him, arching upward like a bridge made of dawn. It led toward a cluster of luminous clouds suspended in the air, shimmering with gold and silver. He took a deep breath and stepped onto it. The moment his foot touched, the bridge thrummed softly, singing beneath his weight. With each step, the dream fragments below brightened, as though guiding him onward. Halfway across, the mist rose higher, swirling around his legs. Voices echoed faintly, laughter, whispers, fragments of sentences he couldn't quite understand. They sounded like old friends calling from somewhere far but familiar. He smiled. "I hear you," he murmured. At the bridge's end stood another figure, this one taller, radiant, cloaked in pale silver light. Its eyes shone like twin moons reflected on water. "Welcome, traveler of motion," it said, its voice calm and resonant. "You've crossed into the dreaming heart. Here, truth takes the form of memory." Sonic nodded slightly. "And what truth will I find?" "That you are more than what the world sees when you move," said the being. "Even the swiftest wind must rest upon the still air. Come." It turned and began walking into the clouds, and Sonic followed, the mist parting with every step. The clouds unfolded like silk curtains, revealing a place beyond light and shadow, a horizonless expanse where the sky met itself. Sonic stepped carefully, though the air beneath his feet felt solid, woven from the same substance as the veil's mist. Here, colors didn't blend but breathed. Streams of silver wind curved around the space, carrying faint echoes of laughter, voices of dreamers whispering in their sleep. The silver figure ahead of him, the guardian of this realm, glided effortlessly, leaving behind faint trails that shimmered like ripples on still water. Sonic followed, his movements softer than usual. For once, he didn't want to rush. Every step here felt like a conversation between the soul and the silence. "Where are we now?" he asked gently. "In the core of remembrance," said the guardian without turning. "The place where the forest keeps the dreams of those who have passed through it. Here, memories do not fade, they transform." He looked around. Forms began to appear, shaped from the air, faint outlines of figures sitting beneath luminous trees, of hands weaving strings of light into shapes that resembled flowers. It was a living gallery of moments never truly gone. Sonic stopped by one of the figures. It was a young fox, not tails, but a reflection of something similar, sitting cross-legged, tinkering with a glowing contraption made entirely of crystal gears. The fox looked up, its eyes kind but distant, and smiled before fading into mist. He whispered, "Was that someone's dream?" The guardian nodded. "A dream of invention. It belonged to one who believed in making the world lighter through thought. Every dream born of creation remains luminous long after its dreamer forgets it." He continued forward, feeling something warm stir in his chest. Pride, nostalgia, maybe even longing. "So this place holds everything people ever wished for?" "Yes," the guardian said softly, "but more than that, it holds why they wished." As they walked, the scenery changed again. The clouds darkened slightly, not with menace, but with depth. Sparks of faint light blinked in and out, like stars seen through layers of water. Sonic could feel faint pulses underfoot, slow, steady, alive. The guardian paused. "These are the dreams that carry sorrow," they said. "They arrive heavy, shaped by loss or regret. But even sorrow has its light." From the mist rose a single, luminous orb. Within it, Sonic saw a scene, a small house under rain. A figure sitting by a window waiting. The sense of loneliness was gentle but profound, like a note held too long. Yet as he watched, the figure smiled faintly at something unseen. Perhaps a memory, perhaps hope. He turned to the guardian. "They're waiting for someone." "Yes," the being replied. "And in waiting, they dream. That dream is what keeps the rain from falling forever." Sonic felt the meaning settle deep inside him. He remembered nights he'd run through storms alone. The way the wind had spoken to him, not to chase, but to remind him that even storms can listen. The guardian looked at him. "You understand," they said quietly, "because you too have carried the weight of others' dreams." He hesitated. "Maybe. I've always wanted to keep moving, to keep others safe, to make sure no one was left behind. But sometimes I wonder if that's enough." "It is not about enough," the guardian said. "It is about continuing. Dreams do not demand perfection, only presence. When you run, the world remembers it can move again." He stood there for a moment, letting the words wash through him like soft waves. Then far ahead, a faint glow began to pulse rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat calling from the horizon. The guardian inclined their head toward it. "The heart of the veil calls you," they said. "Few have reached it. Fewer still have listened." They began walking again, the space around them folding into soft spirals of color. The pulse grew stronger with each step, and Sonic realized it wasn't sound or light, but feeling. Every vibration seemed to echo with something ancient, a memory beyond memory. At last they reached a clearing made entirely of transparent petals, suspended in the air. In the center, resting atop a pedestal of woven gold and moonlight, was a single crystal bloom, the source of the pulse. It looked like a flower sculpted from dawn itself, each petal translucent, each edge burning faintly with pink and silver fire. Sonic stepped closer. The flower's glow changed, softening as though recognizing him. "What is it?" he whispered. "The first dream," said the guardian, "the seed from which the forest of eternal dawn grew. It is the memory of all beginnings, the moment when life first learned to imagine itself." He stared entranced. The flower seemed alive, breathing in slow rhythm. With each pulse, fragments of scenes shimmered through its core, glimpses of starlight, oceans forming, wind learning its song. He reached out instinctively, but the guardian's voice stopped him gently. "To touch it is to remember everything," they said. "Every life, every dream, every echo that ever passed through this realm. It would fill you and break you unless you let go of what you think you are." Sonic hesitated, his hand trembling slightly in the air. "Let go of what I am?" "Yes, because only in stillness can the fastest heart truly see." He looked down at the glowing petals beneath his feet, at the swirling dreams suspended around him like stars underwater. He realized how quiet the world had become. No wind, no sound. Only his heartbeat and the flower's pulse, two rhythms slowly syncing. He exhaled, then closed his eyes. The world fell away. At first there was nothing, only warmth. Then came sound, soft and distant, wind brushing through leaves, laughter in the distance, the hum of life unfolding. He was running, but not through space, through memories, through the lives of those who had dreamed before him. A painter in a sunlit studio, a musician playing for no one but the night, a child watching stars, believing they were listening back. He felt their hopes rush through him, and instead of exhaustion, he felt peace. Every dream he'd once protected, every adventure, every friend, they were all threads of the same song. And within that song, he felt at the core truth of the veil. Dreams don't fade, they flow forward, carried by those who dare to remember. When he opened his eyes again, he was standing in the same clearing. The flowers still pulsed softly, but now its light resonated gently in his chest, as though part of it had settled within him. The guardian spoke. "You have listened." He nodded slowly. "I think I understand now. The forest doesn't just live, it remembers. And I'm part of that memory." "Yes," said the guardian. "Every traveler who passes through leaves a rhythm behind a heartbeat, a color, a whisper. You have left many." The mist around them began to brighten. The clouds receded and the sound of water returned, faint but growing. "It is time," said the guardian. "The path continues." Sonic looked down at his hands. Faint trails of light ran across his fingers, fading slowly into his fur. He smiled, feeling the soft hum of the forest in his chest. He turned toward the horizon, where the first hint of dawn was breaking through the dream. The colors were warmer now, shades of gold and rose blending with the endless silver. Before stepping forward, he looked back once. "Will I see this place again?" The guardian's voice echoed gently. "You never left it." He smiled again, a quiet, knowing smile, and began walking toward the light. The veil of dreams shimmered behind him, then slowly dissolved into mist, its hum fading into a lullaby the forest would keep forever. The dawn shimmered like a thought just beginning to form. The veil of dreams had faded behind him, but its rhythm lingered within the quiet pulse of unseen music that followed every step. Sonic moved through a corridor of pale trees whose branches bent inward like gentle arches, forming a cathedral of light and silence. The air was still, not lifeless, but listening. It was the kind of silence that spoke not with words, but with weight, with presence. He had crossed into the silent citadel, though he didn't yet know it by name. Each step he took echoed faintly. A single note carried endlessly forward. Beneath his feet, the ground was not soil, but stone smooth, translucent, etched with flowing symbols that shifted like ink in water. They glowed faintly under his touch, each rune pulsing once as if awakening from long sleep. For a moment, Sonic paused to watch them. The symbols reminded him of something: paths, motion, rhythm. They seemed to mirror the patterns of his running trails across open fields, spiraling forests, and city skylines. A thought came quietly. Maybe even motion leaves a language behind. He continued, and as he did, faint lights ignited along the walls. They weren't torches or crystals, but floating memories, suspended fragments of the forest's heart. Some showed silhouettes running, others resting, all woven by threads of silver mist that stretched endlessly upward. At the corridor's end stood a massive gate of stone, carved with intricate spirals in feather-like shapes that seemed to drift even though the surface was solid. Sonic placed his hand against it. The moment he did, a tremor ran through the ground, and the air brightened. The gate dissolved silently into motes of light. Beyond it lay an open expanse, a vast circular hall, its ceiling lost in darkness. In its center rose a single tower of glass, spiraling upward, surrounded by hovering shards of crystal that rotated slowly in silence. The reflections within them shimmered faintly, forming half-seen images. Faces, landscapes, battles, laughter, and tears. It was not a citadel of war or rule. It was a citadel of memory. As Sonic stepped forward, The shards slowed, sensing his presence. The nearest one drifted toward him, and as it passed, he saw himself not as he was now, but as he had been, running across the green hills of the world, the wind pushing at his quills, laughter breaking from his chest like sunlight. He watched the memory with quiet awe. The shard pulsed once, then drifted away. Then another floated close, this one darker. Within it, he saw battles fought, friends in danger, the weight of choices and losses that still lingered. The shard hummed lowly, vibrating with something like sorrow. Sonic reached out and whispered, "It's okay. I remember." The shard stilled, then dimmed softly, its light fading like an exhaled breath. He realized then that the citadel wasn't merely showing him the past. It was testing his stillness. The faster his thoughts raced, the more the shards moved. But when he slowed, when he truly watched and listened, they became calm, reflecting only peace. He stood there for what felt like hours, maybe lifetimes, letting each memory pass, some warm, others difficult, but all part of the same rhythm that had carried him here. Eventually, when the last shard settled, a voice filled the hall. It was not loud, nor did it come from any single direction. It was within everything. "You have remembered the world," it said. "Now remember yourself." Sonic turned slowly, and at the far side of the hall, light began to gather, soft at first, then forming into the shape of a grand staircase that spiraled upward into the unseen heights of the citadel. Each step glowed faintly, not with fire, but with memory. He began to climb. With every step, the air grew thinner, quieter, more refined, as though he were ascending through layers of consciousness itself. The walls fell away, and soon he found himself walking among clouds. When he reached the top, the staircase ended in a circular platform of pale stone. In the center stood a mirror, tall, unadorned, perfectly still. Its surface reflected not light, but truth. He approached slowly. At first it showed nothing, only a faint shimmer. Then his reflection began to form. But this was no ordinary image. Around his silhouette, he saw patterns of color, swirling traces of every place he had ever been, every emotion he had ever felt, every life he had touched. Behind him in the reflection, the world unfolded: forests, oceans, skies, all connected by trails of light, shaped like running paths. He watched in silence. Then the mirror spoke. Its voice was his own, but older, deeper, as if it had been waiting for him for centuries. "You have outrun storms, Sonic. You have outpaced time itself. But do you know why you run?" He swallowed softly. "Because I have to. Because the world needs you to move," the mirror finished. "Yes, but have you ever asked what happens to the world when you stop?" He stared at his reflection. The colors around it pulsed softly, almost in time with his heartbeat. "When you stop," the voice continued, "the world learns to breathe again. When you rest, the stars align. Even wind needs silence to remember its direction. You were not made only to run, you were made to carry motion through stillness." Sonic looked down, eyes softening. "That's hard to believe sometimes." "It is hard because it is true," said the mirror. "You are the sound between heartbeats, the pause between thunder and calm. You are the reminder that motion without meaning is only noise." He felt something inside him loosen a tension he hadn't realized he'd been carrying since forever. The mirror brightened, and from its surface rose faint ripples, as though the air itself were water. Within the ripples, he saw fragments of his friends, Tails, Amy, Knuckles, each smiling, laughing, standing beneath endless skies. Their faces shimmered like constellations reflected in dawn. "They move because they saw you move," said the voice, "but they dream because you learned to stop." The realization struck him like sunlight breaking through clouds. All his adventures, all his races against chaos and time, every moment of motion had meaning, not because of speed, but because of heart. The mirror's light pulsed one final time. Then, from beneath the platform, a low hum began to rise, deep, harmonic, alive. The citadel itself was waking. The hum deepened until it filled every particle of air. The citadel's glass walls trembled, not in fear or warning, but in awakening, as though the structure itself had remembered it was alive. Sonic stood at the center of the platform, the mirror before him glowing brighter and brighter until its surface rippled apart like liquid silver. From within it rose a shape human in outline, luminous in form, composed entirely of light and shadow. It was neither male nor female, neither young nor old, an embodiment of stillness made visible. Its voice came not from its mouth but from the air, vibrating softly through the walls and floor. "Traveler of motion," it said, "you have crossed dreams and memory, heart and silence. You have seen what moves and what rests. Now you stand before the memory core, the first heartbeat of the forest itself." The being stepped forward, and where its foot touched, symbols bloomed lines and spirals that flared and faded like petals of light. "What is this place really?" Sonic asked. "Why does it feel like it knows me?" "Because you are part of it," said the being. "Every world born of light carries its echo here. The forest of eternal dawn is the bridge between what dreams and what remembers dreaming. It exists in the stillness between motion, the same stillness that lives in you." Sonic frowned slightly. "But I'm not still. I never stop." The being tilted its head. "You stop more than you think. Every moment you pause to laugh. Every time you listen instead of speak. Every breath before you run again, that is stillness. The forest is made of such moments." He fell quiet, letting that truth sink in. He remembered every dawn he'd watched after a long race, every friend he'd stood beside, wordless and content. The feeling wasn't stillness like a wall, it was stillness like a sky vast, endless, full of possibility. "Then what happens now?" he asked. The being smiled faintly, though its face was a shifting veil of light. "Now the forest remembers itself through you." It raised its hand, and the floor around them began to glow with intricate living geometry. The light expanded outward, tracing circles, spirals, and flowing rivers of symbols across the platform. The mirror behind Sonic melted into air, revealing the vastness of the Citadel's heart, a core of pure radiance floating above a chasm that seemed to stretch into infinity. The light gathered, forming images all around. Flashes of forest blooming, rivers running backwards, stars bending to whisper secrets into the earth. And through them all motion. Every image pulsed like a heartbeat, every heartbeat echoing Sonic's own. He could feel the rhythm now, not as noise, but as harmony. "This is the memory of creation," the being said. "Every forest, every wind, every dawn that has ever existed began here. As a thought, as a dream, as a sound. The first sound was motion, and the first stillness was its echo." Sonic looked around, eyes wide. "So this is where it all started?" "In a way," the being replied. "But beginnings and endings are not lines here, they are circles. You do not stand at the start of a story, Sonic. You stand within its turning." The light around him brightened further, and he began to see more his own paths interwoven with others. Moments where his presence had changed the world in quiet ways. A child inspired to be brave after watching him run. A friend he believed first. He'd never known. He'd never stopped long enough to see. The being watched him gently. "You believed your gift was speed, but your true gift is continuity. You remind the world that life keeps moving even when it pauses. That is why the forest called you here." Sonic stepped closer to the glowing core. "Then what do I do with it? I can't just stay." "Nor should you," the being said. "To carry stillness into the world, that is the task of those who awaken. When you run again, the wind will not only follow you, it will remember you." For the first time, Sonic didn't feel the urge to move fast. Instead, he stood perfectly still, feeling the hum of the citadel synchronized with his breath. The lines on the floor pulsed in time with his heartbeat. One rhythm, one pulse, one truth. He whispered, "I hear it." The being nodded. "Then the forest hears you." The light rose higher, surrounding him completely. He felt warmth, not like fire, but like recognition, as if every dream he'd ever passed through, every friend, Every victory, every quiet dawn was touching him in gratitude. Then the being spoke one final time, its voice resonating through everything, the walls, the air, even Sonic's pulse. Go now, traveler of wind. The dawn does not end, it becomes you. A burst of gentle light engulfed the platform, and the world dissolved. He woke to the sound of rustling leaves. The forest stretched around him, soft, glowing, alive. The air was cool, filled with morning mist. He was lying beneath the same arch of silver trees where his journey had begun, but everything felt different now. The silence wasn't empty, it was full. The air wasn't still, it was breathing with him. He stood, stretching slightly, and for a moment the sunlight caught the edge of his fur and shimmered faintly in the silver and gold, the same hues as the citadel's heart. Somewhere he thought he heard the faint hum of the forest, a melody carried by the wind, whispering just behind sound. He smiled softly. I get it now, he murmured. It was never just about running. It was about listening. The path ahead curved through trees, glowing faintly with dawnlight. He took one slow breath and began to walk, not sprint. His steps were light, measured, quiet. As he moved deeper into the forest, the sunlight thickened, the air shimmered, and distant laughter echoed faint but familiar. It wasn't an ending nor a beginning, just another turn of the circle. The forest of eternal dawn watched him go, every leaf gleaming as though smiling back. And somewhere deep within its heart, the silent citadel pulsed once a heartbeat of light, remembering. The path wound upward like a silver thread through the sleeping mist. The forest had changed again, its colors soft, almost breathing, as if the dawn itself hid beneath the surface of each leaf. Sonic's steps were quieter now, not because he tried to be silent, but because the world around him seemed to listen. He could hear the hum, the same gentle note that had followed him since he first crossed into this realm. It pulsed faintly in his chest, rising and falling with the rhythm of his heartbeat. He didn't question it anymore. The hum had become part of him, a quiet truth whispering beneath thought. The forest around him glowed with that same inner music. Each tree shimmered faintly with veins of light, not constant, but flickering, like memories trying to stay awake. The air smelled faintly of rain, even though no storm had passed. Sonic brushed his hand along the bark of one of the glowing trunks. It was warm. You're close, said a voice. Sonic paused, recognizing it at once. Oriel, the soft spirit of the grove who had guided him through silence and storm. She appeared again, her form woven from pale golden starlight, her wings moving gently like breaths of wind through silk. Close to what? Sonic asked. Oriel smiled, her eyes reflecting dawn's first light, though the sky above was still dark. To the heart of dawnlight, the place where the forest dreams itself awake. Sonic tilted his head. You mean, this entire place dreams? Oriel's voice flowed like a stream. Every part of it, every petal, every whisper of wind. Even you, Sonic, you were dreamed here, just as the dawn was. He didn't answer immediately. Something deep inside him stirred a memory, or perhaps a feeling he couldn't name. The idea that he was part of a dream both comforted and unsettled him. They continued walking. The path began to rise, cutting through fog so thick it felt like moving through memory. Every step revealed faint shapes, ancient runes carved into the stone, old markings of creatures long gone. Some glowed faintly as Sonic passed, responding to his energy. The dawnlight was born from balance, Oriel said as they climbed, when chaos and calm finally stopped fighting and began to listen. That is when the first dawn rose and the forest was born from its song. Sonic nodded quietly. He thought of all the worlds he had run through, the cities of speed, the wastelands of silence, the endless races and battles. None of them had ever felt like this. The forest didn't want to be conquered or explored. It wanted to be understood. The trail opened suddenly into a vast clearing. A pool of light sat in the center, perfectly still, its surface reflecting the sky above, though the reflection was different. It showed dawn, even though the real sky was still deep night. Oriel gestured toward it. The mirror of two times. Look closely. Sonic stepped forward, peering into the pool. His reflection blinked back, but behind it, he saw something else. Not himself, but his journey. The moments he had walked through, the first whispers in the mist, the Luminara Grove, the drifting spirits in the Vale of Dreams, the silver bridge across the quiet river. Each scene shimmered like petals on water. But as he looked deeper, the reflection began to change. The dawn behind him glowed brighter until he realized the light wasn't coming from the reflection. It was rising through it. The ground trembled faintly. It's awakening, Oriel said softly. The heart calls to those who have seen beyond the veil. From beneath the pool, light began to spiral upward. It wasn't harsh or blinding. It moved gently like breathtaking shape. The light formed patterns, sigils, constellations, currents of color shifting between gold, silver, and pale rose. The air filled with quiet sound, not a melody, but harmony itself. Sonic stepped back as the light gathered in the center of the clearing. It rose higher, condensing into a single floating orb. Inside it, faint shadows moved, wings, leaves, and what looked like the outline of a tree. The heart of dawnlight, whispered Oriel. Every dream this forest ever held, gathered in one place. Every dawn that ever rose, waiting for its song. Sonic took a breath. The hum in his chest matched the rhythm of the light before him. He could feel it drawing him closer, not pulling, inviting. He reached out his hand. The moment his fingertips brushed the edge of the light, everything shifted. The clearing fell away like falling petals. He wasn't standing anymore. He was floating in light, endless, calm, radiant. The colors moved like gentle tides, and voices echoed softly within. He recognized some of them, the whisper of the river, the sigh of the grove, the call of distant creatures. They were all part of the same melody. Why am I here? He asked quietly. Because you are the echo that remembers motion, the voices replied, and motion remembers time. Time remembers dawn. He didn't quite understand the words, but he felt their truth deep inside. The heart was not a thing, it was an understanding. To find it meant to listen until the world itself began to breathe through you. He let the hum grow stronger until it filled him completely. His eyes closed. He could see not with sight, but with sound waves of feeling, ripples of memory. Every moment he had lived shimmered around him, transforming into light. And then silence. A single heartbeat echoed through the void, but it wasn't his alone. It was the forest's. The light began to change again, swirling faster. Within its motion, Sonic saw something, not just reflections, but stories. The birth of the first dawn, the meeting of chaos and calm, the dance of color through the first wind. He saw figures, spirits that looked like flame and water, moving together in unity. And then for just a moment, he saw himself not running, not fighting, just still, like the horizon itself. The vision faded. He stood once more in the clearing. The pool was calm again, its reflection showing both night and dawn in balance. Oriel stood nearby, her wings folded, her eyes warm. You touch the heart, she said. Few have ever done that. I didn't understand everything I saw, Sonic admitted, but I felt it, like it was showing me something about what it means to keep moving, not to escape, but to connect. Oriel smiled gently. Movement and stillness are not opposites, Sonic. They are the same song, sung in different tempos. The dawn above the forest began to bloom at last, the horizon painted in soft gold. Sonic looked toward it, and for the first time the light didn't feel distant. It felt like part of him. He turned to ask Oriel something, but she was gone. Only her voice lingered, like the fading sound of a bell. The heart is never far, traveler. Wherever you listen, it awakens. The light spread across the clearing. The trees shimmered, their branches bending as if bowing to the dawn. The entire forest seemed to exhale, long, slow, peaceful. Sonic closed his eyes and let the light wash over him. He didn't run this time. He simply stood still, letting the warmth of the new morning fill him until it felt like the forest was breathing through him. Somewhere deep within the light, the hum began again, quieter now, steady, alive. And Sonic understood. This was not an ending. It was a heartbeat. The light lingered long after the dawn had fully risen. It didn't fade, it transformed. The gold softened to silver, the silver into pale blue, the blue into the faintest lilac, each color breathing gently, as if the forest itself was weaving a lullaby out of color. Sonic remained at the center of the clearing, still as the first leaf of morning. His shadow stretched softly over the dew. He wasn't tired, though it felt like he had run through centuries. He was simply aware. Every sound, every shimmer of wind against grass, every whisper of roots beneath the earth, he could sense all of it, and all of it seemed to know his name. He turned slowly. The forest had changed again. Where before the trees had glowed like lanterns, now they shimmered like glass, each trunk filled with faint streams of light memories, flowing upward toward the sky. And far above, where the canopy parted, the dawn poured through in pure threads. At the edge of the clearing, something stirred. It was a creature unlike any he had seen. Its body was shaped like wind made visible, transparent, yet full of motion. Feathers of light rippled down its back, and eyes like twin horizons regarded him quietly. "You heard the heartbeat," it said. Its voice carried the tone of both echo and breeze. Sonic nodded. "I think I did." "Then you have seen what lies beneath motion," the creature said. "You've seen the stillness that carries everything forward." It stepped closer. Where its feet touched the ground, the grass grew taller, brighter, alive. "The heart of dawnlight does not belong to one being," it continued. "It is the memory of connection of all who've crossed this realm before. Each one leaves a note behind in its song, some faint, some strong. You've added yours now." Sonic watched as the creature's feathers shimmered into a dozen colors, hues of the forest itself, of the rivers, of the dreams he had passed through. "And what happens now?" Sonic asked. "Now," said the creature, "you listen to what the dawn has to say." The forest fell utterly silent. Then slowly, from somewhere unseen, the light began to move again. But this time it didn't rise from the ground. It descended from above. Threads of brightness spiraled down from the open sky, settling gently over the clearing like falling petals. They touched Sonic's fur, his gloves, his shoes. Every contact brought warmth, not just physical, but emotional. He could feel memories awakening inside him, the rush of his first run across open plains, laughter shared with friends, the quiet strength of still moments he had never truly noticed. The air shimmered. The pool at the center began to ripple once more. Only now, instead of reflecting dawn or night, it reflected possibility. He stepped toward it again, compelled not by curiosity, but by peace. As he neared, his reflection rippled and split, and within it, he saw many versions of himself. Running, resting, fighting, smiling, every form he had ever taken, every path he had ever crossed. Each version looked at him. Then one by one they began to fade into light until only a single reflection remained, the one standing here, in the forest, bathed in dawn. "The heart shows you what you've been," said the creature softly, "so that you may understand what you are becoming." Sonic knelt near the water, resting his hand on the surface. The reflection didn't distort this time. The water felt solid, like cool glass. Through it, he saw a faint glow, deeper, warmer, pulsing in rhythm with his own heartbeat. He realized the truth then. The heart of dawnlight wasn't somewhere outside of him. It was within. Every moment he had stopped to listen, every time he'd chosen calm instead of chaos, had been a small awakening of that light inside. And now, for the first time, it shone clearly. The creature bowed its head, the light of its feathers dimming slightly. "You have heard the dawn's memory," it said. "But remember, dawn is not the end of night. It is its promise." The words echoed long after the creature vanished into light. Sonic stood again. The clearing shimmered softly. The dawn was brighter now, but it didn't sting the eyes. It felt like music filling the air. The entire forest seemed to wake rivers murmuring, leaves trembling in quiet joy, petals falling like fragments of dreams returning home. As he walked through it, he noticed something new. Wherever his steps touched the earth, faint trails of golden light bloomed and then slowly faded. Not footprints, imprints, echoes of his presence blending into the rhythm of the forest. The wind carried voices faint, joyful, belonging to all the spirits he had met. The laughter of the luminaras, the whispers of the vale, the distant hum of the first dawn itself. They wove around him in a gentle chorus, and though no single word was clear, the meaning was unmistakable. Welcome home. He reached a hill where the trees opened wide, revealing a view of the entire forest below. Rivers like silver threads, meadows glowing softly, the faint haze of dreams lifting into morning air. He stood there for a long time, feeling the still wind and the rhythm beneath it, the forest's heartbeat echoing his own. Then he closed his eyes. And for the first time, the hum that had followed him since the beginning stopped, not because it ended, but because it had merged with his heartbeat completely. There was no longer any separation between the forest and the traveler. They were one breath, one movement, one dawn. A final gust of wind swept across the hill. It carried with it the scent of light rain and blooming flowers, the eternal promise that dawn would always return. Sonic smiled softly, the faintest echo of peace touching his expression. He whispered not to anyone in particular, but to the forest, the dawn, the dream that had guided him here. Thank you for letting me listen. The forest shimmered in response, a pulse of light that ran from horizon to horizon. The rivers glowed, the leaves whispered, and high above the sky broke open into radiant warmth. It wasn't the kind of sunrise that announced itself with brilliance. It was gentle, steady, eternal. Sonic turned his gaze toward it, eyes half-lidded, breathing slow. Somewhere deep within the golden light, a new hum began, a melody familiar and yet forever changing. The song of the heart continuing its rhythm into the endless morning. And though Sonic would move again through forests, across worlds, between stars, part of him would always remain here, in the quiet center of the dawn where motion and stillness were finally one. The world was quiet again. Not empty, never empty, but complete. The heart of dawnlight had faded into the forest breath, and the glow that once circled Sonic's hands now lingered as a faint shimmer beneath his fur. Each pulse of light was slow, gentle as if time itself had learned to breathe more softly. He stood beneath the oldest tree of the clearing, a towering pillar whose roots coiled deep into the sleeping earth. The bark shimmered faintly, and for the first time Sonic noticed symbols carved into it, circles within circles, each one glowing when the breeze touched them. He reached out. The moment his fingertips met the bark, a ripple of light spread outward, a heartbeat answering his own. The forest didn't speak this time. It simply remembered. All around him, the land began to stir with the memory of morning. The air tasted faintly of honey and stone, of moss after rain. In the distance, rivers whispered their names. Birds, real or not, he couldn't tell, began to hum the melody of first light. It was peaceful, yet there was something new beneath that calm, a quiet ache, a sense that the dream was nearing its last breath. He turned toward the horizon. The dawn he had awakened now stretched endlessly across the world. But at the very edge, a faint shimmer of shadow remained the last thread of night. He knew somehow that he had to go there. The forest seemed to understand. As Sonic stepped forward, the path opened naturally beneath his feet. Petals drifted down from unseen branches, glowing like embers against the soft air. The creatures of light, the luminaras, the soft-winged spirits, even the echoes of the vale emerged one by one to watch him pass. None spoke. They simply bowed their heads, their wings catching the pale gold of the sun that had never set. He passed through glades that once shimmered with mystery. Now they glowed with gratitude. Where rivers once murmured riddles, they now sang farewells. As he walked, the hum returned faint, rhythmic, blending perfectly with the sound of his steps. It was no longer calling him. It was walking with him. He reached the edge of the forest where the light and the remaining shadow met. The air shimmered there, not like heat or illusion, but like a veil between two breaths of the same world. A shape emerged within the dim glow, familiar, though impossible. It was Oriel, radiant yet transparent, her wings now pale as moonlight. She smiled, and in her eyes, Sonic saw both night and dawn reflected together. "You've come to the edge," she said. "Every dream has one, not a boundary, but a bridge." Sonic nodded. "Is this where it ends?" Oriel shook her head slowly. "Nothing that awakens truly ends, but the forest must sleep again, so others may find their way through its dreaming." Her words sank deep. The hum within him pulsed gently, steady as a heartbeat. "So it's time for me to go," he said quietly. "Not to leave," she whispered. "To become." Oriel stepped closer, her light washing over him. She reached out and touched his chest where the glow still lingered. "You carry the heart now, Sonic. Wherever you move, even across worlds, across winds, the dawn will follow. You are the motion that keeps light alive." The forest wind stirred, petals rose around them, circling in a spiral that reached up toward the endless morning sky. The colors shifted from gold to rose, from rose to soft blue, until it became the pure white of timeless light. Sonic looked up into it, feeling the warmth settle deep within him. He wanted to speak, to thank her, to promise something, but words no longer felt necessary. The forest already knew. Oriel's form began to fade, her voice now an echo through the trees. "Listen, and you'll find us wherever dawn touches the wind." The petals scattered, and she was gone. The silence that followed wasn't sad, it was sacred. Sonic stood for a moment longer, watching as the last threads of shadow melted into light. Then he stepped forward through the veil, and everything changed. The ground beneath him was soft as mist. The air was weightless, glowing faintly as if he were standing inside a memory. All color dissolved into light, and then returned in fragments: gold, lavender, silver, blending into one another like living music. He realized with calm certainty that this was beyond the forest. Not another place, but another state. He felt weightless, not running, not standing, simply existing between motion and rest. Every heartbeat echoed as a ripple of light. Then he saw them, all the spirits, all the memories of his journey gathered in quiet harmony around him. The luminaras danced through the air like streams of fireflies. The whispering leaves of the grove shimmered, singing softly. The wind from the vale brushed his quills like a familiar friend. And there, rising in the center of it all, was the faint outline of the dawnlight tree, vast, luminous, its branches reaching across time. From its trunk flowed the melody he had followed from the very beginning, the hum that was never a sound but a promise. He stepped closer. The roots glowed beneath his feet, forming shapes, spirals, loops, constellations. They weren't random, they were paths. All the paths he had ever run, every world, every moment written here, shining in the light of the eternal dawn. Sonic smiled softly. He placed his hand on the trunk. The moment he did, the forest exhaled. Light surged gently outward, not in brightness, but in peace, spreading across the realm, filling every space with golden calm. The forest of eternal dawn was dreaming again. The light spread outward like breath across water. Every branch, every petal, every ripple of air seemed to hum in unison. The forest did not vanish. It transformed. Its form dissolved into its essence, a single pulse of dawn suspended in time. Sonic stood at the center of it all, still touching the trunk of the great tree. His eyes reflected its glow, calm, steady, infinite. For a moment he could feel everything. The wind moving through the farthest meadow, the soft rain gathering over distant hills, even the rhythm of the stars above. And within that vastness, he could still feel himself not smaller, not lost, but part of it all. Each heartbeat, each breath was a note in the symphony that had been playing since the first dawn. He closed his eyes. The hum filled him completely, not around him, not through him, but as him. He realized then that it had never been the forest's call alone. It had always been his own voice returning to him through the world. The stillness deepened. In that infinite calm, the world began to dream again. Shapes formed within the light fragments of motion, threads of memory. He saw moments from every step of his journey. The mist at the forest's entrance, the mirror of two times, the veil of dreams, the glow of the luminara grove, and finally, the clearing of the heart. Each scene unfolded softly before fading into the next. A gentle film projected through dawnlight. And then he saw something new. A child, sitting by a window in the waking world, eyes half closed, listening to the sound of the forest through a dream. The same hum that filled this realm echoed faintly in that world too, a reminder that the forest existed wherever calm could be found. Sonic smiled faintly. The boundary between dream and waking, between traveler and listener, no longer seemed real. It was all the same motion, the same song. A breeze rose from nowhere, circling him in the spirals of golden mist. The air shimmered, the light grew softer, warmer. The dawn-light tree began to fade, its roots dissolving into starlit ground, its branches blending with the sky. Sonic stepped back slowly, watching it go. There was no sadness in him, only gratitude. He understood now. The forest did not disappear. It became everything it had always been meant to be: memory, peace, and the promise of return. He turned to where the horizon stretched endless, golden, waiting. And then, as naturally as breathing, he began to move. Not running to escape, not chasing time, but moving with it as if each step was part of dawn itself. The ground beneath him rippled with faint color trails of soft blue and pink spreading outward like watercolor across morning mist. Behind him, the last whisper of the forest drifted on the wind. Wherever you go, the dawn follows. He nodded, his expression serene. The path stretched ahead, a ribbon of light fading into clouds. Beyond it lay no destination, no boundary, only continuation. As he stepped onto it, the hum rose once more, but now it was brighter, fuller, alive. It wasn't calling him anymore, it was singing with him. And slowly the world around him began to fade into light. The dream of the forest lingered long after. The rivers continued to whisper beneath unseen skies. The petals continued to fall through timeless air. And the first song of dawn kept echoing in the heart of every traveler who paused long enough to listen. Somewhere far from the dream, a soft wind passed through a window. Curtains moved. A listener stirred in their sleep, a faint smile crossing their lips. In that quiet, they could almost hear it, the hum, gentle and eternal. The forest had not vanished. It had simply become part of the dawn. And the dawn, in turn, would forever remember the traveler who once ran not to win, not to flee, but to understand. For even in endless motion, there is peace. And even in silence, there is song. The forest of eternal dawn shimmered one last time and rested. And so, our journey drifts to rest. The forest sleeps, the dawn hums quietly, and the dream finds its peace. Thank you for traveling through the light tonight. Until we meet again, in another dream, beneath another dawn. Good night, and sleep well.